Hey, welcome to the CMO Whisper Show. I'm your host, Steve Olensky. Part marketing practitioner, part ad agency veteran, part journalist. I was a writer for Forbes for 10 years. I've had so many insightful conversations over the years with business leaders, to athletes, to celebrities, to, of course, CMOs. The only difference now is instead of sharing those insights through written form, I'm doing it this way. My guest today is Bonnie Low-Kramen. Bonnie is one of the most respected voices in the field of executive and personal assistant training, having taught in 14 countries and worked with organizations including Google, Amazon, Microsoft, the Wharton School, and even the British Parliament. But what makes Bonnie's perspective so fascinating is where it all began. For 25 years, she served as the personal assistant to Academy Award-winning actress Olympia Dukakis, giving her a front row seat to leadership, human behavior, communication, trust, pressure, and what really makes people thrive at work or walk away from it. She's the author of the book, Staff Matters, People-Focused Solutions for the Ultimate New Workplace and Be the Ultimate Assistant. Her TEDx talk is titled, The Real Reasons People Quit, and her insights have appeared in both Harvard Business Review and Forbes. But this is not just a conversation about assistance. It's a conversation about leadership, about respect, about culture, about the people behind the people, and the invisible glue that holds organizations together while everyone else is busy chasing the next shiny AI headline. Amen to that. Bonnie brings something we could all use a little more of, real-world perspective from someone who understands that no technology will ever replace the value of deeply human work. Bonnie, welcome to the show.
Steve, thank you so much. I'm like, yeah, all of that. Everything you just said. Yeah.
Exactly. It's very impressive. Okay, I want to jump in with the TEDx talk you did. The title alone is so intriguing. The Real Reasons People Quit. Tell my audience about it. What's the inspiration for it? Everything.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm happy you found it so compelling. You know, when a TEDx talk came my way to do, I remember thinking, well, if I only get to do one in my whole life, what is it that I need to talk about? And what I landed on was to talk about the thing that I don't think is being talked about enough in the workplace. Because in my work with executive assistants, so many of them end up quitting their jobs because they're being treated disrespectfully or in some way not fairly in their view. And when they leave, they're either not invited to have an exit interview or they choose not to say because, you know, who wants to put themselves into the frying pan that way? And so in my mind, I'm thinking leaders and HR are walking around and they don't really know. I don't think all of them know why people are really walking out the door. And that's what I decided to say in this talk. And on the flip side, I shared with the audience the top 4 things that staff want. If leaders are interested in holding on to their people rather than having them run for the exit, I mean, who doesn't remember the Great Resignation from the pandemic, right? If leaders want to hold on to their people, what they want most, number 1 is not money. Number 1 is respect. Number 2 is appreciation and a sense of belonging, that they matter. That it matters if they're there, that they're not just a number. I mean, that's the famous thing we all hear. You know, I just feel like a number. I feel like it doesn't, you know, if I'm here or not, it doesn't really matter. And so why should I care? The third thing people want is fair compensation. I'm not talking about greedy. People want to be able to pay their bills and put food on the table. Those are the people I talk to. And then the fourth thing that people want in the workplace is to be supported to keep learning and growing. Because I know everybody who's listening notices that this workplace is super complicated and it's changing by the minute. AI is changing things, but it's not only about AI. Leaders had better get on to the fact that they need to keep providing professional development opportunities for their teams.
Sorry to interrupt, but why do so many still get it wrong?
Why do so many get it wrong? I believe because leaders in HR are incentivized by money. They're incentivized by making the most profit possible. And that means really, putting the thumb down on people to produce. They are not incentivized to have culture of respect that retains people. That script, I believe, has to flip. There are companies out there that do both. I have seen it. I have been inside companies that treat people respectfully, fairly, and they're killing it at the bottom line and profits. So many leaders get it wrong because they haven't been trained the right way to do it.
Okay, which is a good segue to my next question, and it's kind of a generic question, but do people quit companies or do they quit managers?
100% they quit managers. Percent. It's all about the people. I'll remember when I'm in front of audiences, sometimes I'll ask, just think about the best boss you ever had. Tell me what those adjectives are. What does that look like? And it's instant. They start shouting that, I had my voice. I had a seat at the table. He was kind. He knew my name, that kind of thing. And then I say, tell me what the bad boss looked like that you had. And that is also instant. Most people have a very visceral reaction to those questions. And even leaders, what gets me, Steve, is have they forgotten what it was like to actually be a worker as opposed to a leader and a CEO? They didn't just spring out of college a CEO. That's what gets me is I need them to remember and be in touch with what it feels like to be working for and with somebody else who has supervisory control over you.
Yeah, I mean, I use the word simple a lot in my life, and it sounds simple, but that's the point. We all came up the same way we did for the most part.
Yeah, unless you were born with a silver spoon, which is
right?
So
exactly.
Rare, super rare. We all had to figure out how to make a living. So, the world is moving so fast. Chapter 1 of Staff Matters is called empathy. And that is what I think is needed most. We need to imagine ourselves in your shoes, in somebody else's shoes. Once that happens, then we have a chance to work well together. But I work in rooms of very diverse people, diverse ages, diverse gender, diverse ethnicity. And really, when it comes down to it, they have so much more in common than not. If only they had a chance to talk to each other. We've got a workplace that's hybrid and remote and feels fragmented and fractured, and communicating over webcams. People were not prepared to communicate in this way. And I think people are still adapting to this new way of working. I don't know, perhaps you have an opinion about that yourself.
I do. And I agree with you. I mean, the pandemic, which is now going on, 6 years in the rearview mirror? But those impacts, a lot of them will never go away for one reason or another.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we've been through something, and most people, they don't walk around with it, advertised on the outside of themselves, but most people have experienced some kind of loss and illness, and it was serious. Some days I wake up and I think, did that really happen? And it did. And what I advise assistants to do, because they're on the front lines of all the stress and anxiety that leaders feel in the workplace, I think there's a lot of residual stress and anxiety from the pandemic 6 years ago. I think it's a mistake to have the attitude, well, that's done. It's over. We're never going to see that again. I mean, now we're dealing with a new virus that's out there, thankfully not as serious as COVID.
Right.
But I don't know that there's any human being walking around thinking, well, that will never happen again.
No.
Very well could.
I want to hear about you said this to me, I think off when we first talked or in an email about your aha moment when you were 46. Tell us about that.
Yeah. In the introduction to Staff Matters, I talk about a metric that I learned back in 2012 that blew my mind, that changed the way I teach. Because it seems to me, like you asked me earlier, why do so many leaders get it wrong? That's the question that would keep me up at night. And what I found was the study that was done by a credible organization of 7,000 leaders around the world, and they figured out the average age that a leader gets their very first formal training in managing people. And it is a shocking age 46. And you don't have to be a math genius to figure out that most leaders, if they went to college, which most of them did, they're out of college more than 20 years before they ever receive their very first formal training in managing people. And that explained so much. It explained why so many assistants and staff felt poorly managed, that their leaders simply haven't learned how. They haven't learned how to have those difficult conversations. Steve, I believe you'll trust me when I tell you that assistants report that their executives avoid tough conversations. They just don't want to have them. And why is that? They don't have any practice or training in it. It's hard enough having a difficult conversation, period. But it's hard to do it over a webcam. It's hard to do it when you have no context, when you have no training. So, I spent a lot of time interviewing psychologists and leadership experts to help me figure out what's in play here, and that age 46 thing really made sense to me. That, okay, then that it's not that these leaders are trying to be mean or nasty necessarily. They're suffering from lack of education.
They don't know what they don't know.
A form of ignorance is the hard truth.
And I think it's equally important to note that by that age, the majority of us have bought houses, gotten married, had kids. So there's all that personal life. And I can see you shaking your head going,
those pressures.
The pressures, right?
A lot of role modeling has happened. A lot of influence has happened. And so I remember learning that metric and thinking to myself, this is not okay. So we're leaving it to luck.
Yeah.
We're leaving it to luck.
Yeah.
That a leader has had a good role, that was raised right, whoever raised him or her, and that whoever they were managed by figured it out and they had a good role model. So it just feels like we should be doing this so much better.
Yeah. For leaders who are listening, who right now are struggling with things like communication and empathy, what advice would you give them?
They must seek out quality training. And there's a lot out there, and there's so many books and so many courses. The message, though, is it needs to be a willingness to be open, to understand that you're great at a lot of things, but you're not necessarily great at this. And one way to tell you're not necessarily great at this, number one, is to look at your employee retention rates. That's a really good metric. And the second way to do it is to ask your people, is to give them psychological safety to tell you the truth. And that requires high EQ. Mm-hmm. It requires emotional intelligence and a real maturity for me to come to you, Steve, and say, you know what, Steve, I think I'm not doing a few things well. I really value your honest feedback about what you see. And I promise you, there will not be backlash. There will not be repercussions. You will not have to pay a price for being the messenger to me.
Yep. That requires also humility and just a level of confidence in your own abilities to kind of expose yourself in a matter of speaking, right?
True.
I did it when I was, when I've had people report to me, it's literally, you got to take the good with the bad.
Right. And be prepared to hear a hard thing.
Yep.
And to be prepared to understand the source, because you want to ask people who really do have an insight, and to know that you may not end up agreeing with everything they say. Just because they say a hard thing doesn't mean it's necessarily true, because everyone is coming to the workplace with their own baggage, with their own history, with their own mortgages, with their own experience with other leaders and other peers. So it's a complicated, messy situation, this mix of personalities. That's why I love personality assessments. We give that at our workshop, the DISC assessment. It's valuable to have some insight to your own way of working, your own personality, because we're not all alike, and then to get some insight to the people around you. And that takes time and energy. It's hard work.
It is.
Managing people. And I try to give my students, these executive assistants and personal assistants, empathy for leaders. It's not easy to be a leader. And in fact, the data is showing that fewer and fewer people are applying for leadership positions. And for good reason. It is really damned hard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I completely agree. How would you say AI is changing leadership?
Well, at this moment in 2026, it is still a pretty new technology on the scene. And therefore, the image that I come to a lot, and I speak with assistants pretty much every day, who report what's going on inside their companies, that leaders are strong words, frantically trying to decide which AI platforms to invest money in, time in, training in. So it's kind of like building the plane as they're flying it. What to do, ChatGPT or Claude or Gamma or Perplexity, like what? So it's not only the platforms themselves, how to use it. You don't magically know how to be a great prompter, and it's a new skill that we're all learning. AI is causing a whole other level of anxiety and stress inside workplaces. And I believe some companies who are the leaders who are making the decision to, downsize and lay off hundreds, maybe thousands of people, I'm pretty sure they're going to discover that they've cut too close to the bone.
Yeah.
Eventually. But at what price? There are too many stories about being let go in a mass email. I don't know if you've seen the new movie Devil Wears Prada, but that's the opening scene where everyone is let go in a text message.
Oh,
that's
listen,
happening. That's not just movies.
No. Oracle is the one that comes to most mind most recently. They did a mass layoff through an email.
There has to be a better way.
There has to be,
yes.
Right? And there is a better way. It's called being human.
Yeah. There's no working person who doesn't understand that sometimes people have to be laid off and downsized. And there's that thing, RIF, a reduction in force. And there's all these justifications to let people go. Okay. We know that's a reality of business. It doesn't have to be cruel and inhumane.
Right.
A human hired this person. How about a human fires this person and hopefully provides some support to find new work? There are a lot of people struggling to make a living right now. And I see just a lot of pain out there regarding the job search. And it feels unnecessary. I'm not a Pollyanna. I'm not thinking, oh no, everybody should have a job. It just doesn't have to be mean-spirited or done so fast that we jump totally over the humanity of it all. I mean, everybody remembers how they're hired, and certainly everybody remembers how they're fired. I was fired one time in my career, and I will never forget it. I don't know if most people in my classes have been fired at least once.
I'm totally. I've been riffed and
Yeah. When you've had that experience, it really gives you empathy when it happens to other people.
1,000%.
And it just doesn't have to be that way.
Nope.
And I know it. Will it take longer? Yes. Is it easy to hit send and send out 9,000 emails? Sure. But there has to be a better way. So there has to be a town hall that happens to prep people for what's going on.
Let's kind of flip it to, and then you've worked with Google, Amazon, Microsoft. Let's flip it from what leaders aren't doing right and what you've seen, what makes a great leader.
Oh my goodness. What makes a great leader is when they put money and energy into those words that are on the careers tab on the website that say that we have a culture of respect, that we value everyone's contribution, that we believe in everyone's growth. When companies put money behind that, and when the leadership makes it clear that the staff truly is the backbone of the company, and they're shown appreciation, spot bonuses, acknowledgement at meetings. I had an experience at a very large company where when I did a virtual presentation for them, my slide number 2 was a thank you slide to the 2 organizers of the event who happened to be executive assistants. So with approval, I wanted their photos, their headshots, and title on the slide.
Okay.
And thank you. And it's not only just a nice to do, it's something I do at all my presentations. And what the feedback I received, though, was that me asking for that approval of the slide was the catalyst for a very big conversation, that they were so happy to be publicly acknowledged that the organizers admitted to me that what it did was it revealed that so many of the people on the team felt invisible. And that what they started talking about was, how could we do more of this? How could we publicly acknowledge more people authentically and not in an organic way? And I was delighted that that happened, but I hear that very often is that the staff feels invisible. You know, Steve, my point of view is that the very best leaders out there are the ones who understand they've hired their people for a reason, or probably many reasons. They looked at their resume and they had several talents and skills that they wanted to leverage. But then after they're there, how about so it's not only what they do in their job, but it's what they know and who they know.
Yep.
The best leaders out there tap their staff for their opinions, their thoughts, their ideas. I'm telling you, that is a missed opportunity for so many leaders who just rely on their C-suite direct reports and not going to the people who are in the lower levels, squarely in the middle of the organization. The beautiful thing about people in the middle of the organization is that they see everything. Yep. They're in a great seat. You probably know the appliance store, Best Buy.
Sure.
Right? Jolie was the CEO of that company, and he wrote a really great book called The Heart of Business. Now, as the CEO of Best Buy, he used to put on a blue shirt. That's what they call them, the blue shirts. And he used to make it a practice to go into the stores and just hang out with the salespeople and feel what it felt like. Absolutely, that is a key to success, to a successful leader, is someone who really is in touch with the product, with what people are actually going through. And does it take time and energy? Absolutely. Is it totally worth it? I think it is. Assistants say, they're so happy when, oh my gosh, the CEO knows my name.
Yeah.
He called me by my name. During the pandemic, when, a family member was sick, stories that I would hear from assistants who said, oh my gosh, I got a random call from the CEO who wanted to know how my husband was. Like, what? And
you think that person's ever going to leave the company?
Never.
Right.
That person would throw themselves in front of a truck for that CEO, as I would have for Olympia. I'm getting goosebumps right now. That's what happens with actions like that.
We're going to get to Olympia in a second.
You know that feeling.
Because we got to talk about Olympia and take us behind the curtain of that life. But I know the Hubert Jolie really well, and when I read the book. And it was something that literally could have been in, and I know you know this book, Good to Great, the very famous book, right, by Jim Collins. Herbert Jolie, he could have been, if they did an updated version, he could be profiled. That's the mark of a great leader.
I believe so. And Hubert gave me permission to quote him in my book, in Staff Matters. I got an email from him. Great leaders.
I get it.
Right back.
So let's talk about Olympia.
Okay.
How did that come about, first of all?
Oh my gosh. Right place, right time. I began working with Olympia as the PR director at the theater she was running in northern New Jersey, called the Whole Theater. I began with her 10 months before she became famous. 10 months before she got cast in Moonstruck. Now, when I went to work with her in 1980, I'm sure people listening were not even born in 1986. But that's the fact of it. She was not a household name. Nobody knew Olympia Dukakis. And I went to the library to do my research on her. And I found out that she was a very respected off-Broadway theater actress, and a colleague of mine, to networking and helped me get that interview. And I met her, and she was not famous. And we connected with each other like you and I would work with each other. And we hung out, and she said, so tell me about you. What's your family like? And we just connected on a human level. I was an English major at Rutgers. I knew how to write, so I'd be writing press releases. And after a half an hour, she said, when can you start? So we began, and we developed a great working relationship at work. And 10 months in, she came to me and said, we have a lot of work to do, because I've been cast in a movie and I'm going to Canada to shoot for a month. So we have to, do a lot of press releases. We have to really get clear on what's happening. And I asked her, I said, well, I'm thinking I'm doing PR, and I'm thinking this is very exciting. What are you doing? What movie? And she started rattling off. Well, I'm playing Cher's mother, and these people, Danny Aiello and Nicholas,
Cage.
Nicholas. Well, Nick. She called him Nicholas Gage, and I said, wait. Are you talking about Nicholas Cage? And I'm screaming, and I said, wait. Who's directing? And then she said, Norman Jewison, huge Hollywood
Of
director.
course.
Then I said, all right, what's the studio? And she said, MGM. And when she said that, I was like screaming, so excited. I was like, she'd done movies, but this was a huge Hollywood film, Jewison and MGM. So all the staff were coming around like, what are you screaming about? I'm like, Olympia's in this huge movie, and it's going to be great for the theater. We're going to sell so many tickets. And during that month, she needed someone she trusted to be kind of communication central. She couldn't have 20 people on the staff calling her every day.
Yep.
It was determined. I didn't have a say in the decision. They just came to me. Olympia came to me and said, so listen, while I'm gone, everybody's going to come to you and tell you what they need from me. And then I'm going to call you once a day. You're going to do that. You're going to tell me what everybody needs, and I'm going to give you answers. And that's when I came up with the phrase administrative triage, kind of like in a hospital.
Yeah.
And I would walk around with this pad, and it was crazy that year. And of course, that year, she helped her cousin, Michael Dukakis, run for president of the United States as a Democratic candidate. And I was pregnant with my son.
Oh, my
Adam.
gosh.
So I look back, and we did that without a computer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was early
Cell
days.
phone?
Yeah, no cell phone.
Of course.
I came home to like 20 messages on my answering machine, and it could be entertainment press, it could be political press. It was wild. If I survived 1988, seriously, I can survive anything.
Yeah. Wow.
It was that intense. And then she followed up Moonstruck with Steel Magnolias and Mr. Holland's Opus. So it was very clear. The phone didn't stop ringing, and she needed somebody to help wrangle all of that activity. And I found out, Steve, I really liked doing it. I was good at it, and it was so fun. So,
I can't imagine.
In a million years, neither one of us thought that it would last for 25 years. We just knew she was crazy busy, and getting, after she won the Academy Award, the phone call from Saturday Night Live came. Would she host? But she was doing a play, so she had to say no to that. So I passed on that. So now it's a whole other vocabulary with film and agents and managers. And it was great fun. And I write about it and be the ultimate assistant. And Olympia was very supportive of me writing the book, writing about her. She wrote the foreword to the book. She knew that there was not enough out there about assistants. And she wanted to she knew that me doing my job would enable her to do her job. And
what are some of the lessons you remember from working with her?
That they're human, just like everybody else. I went with her to the People's Choice Awards when she accepted for Steel Magnolias. She was the cast member. And People's Choice Awards are the awards with TV and film. She and I never saw so many stars in our whole life as at that event in 1989, I think it was. Like that night, and people were coming over to her like in droves, because she had won the Academy Award for Moonstruck, and people wanted to talk to her about her work. And really that night, I realized what she needed most was an anchor. She needed somebody to just talk about the kids and how just normal things. What are we going to have for dinner tonight? The whole Hollywood scene, she never got sucked into that. And I think people have an image of famous folks, who do, some certainly get caught up in, all the money and the fame and all of that. But in the end, they're human beings, and they get tired, and they get shy and intimidated and tired. And I realized that was part of my role in supporting her, is getting her out of there if she was ready to go. Just because somebody's famous doesn't mean they're eager to engage with anyone and everyone.
Correct.
Every minute.
I had a very similar, but albeit much more brief in my career when I was writing for Forbes, and I went to the Grammy Awards a couple of times. And I went to the night before the Grammy Awards party, the big Clive Davis party. Yeah, I'm still not even sure how I got in, but anyway. And there's celebrities everywhere, and I see Sylvester Stallone. Now, I'm from Philly, if you don't know, right? I'm like, okay, if I don't go up to Sylvester's, I'm never going to live it down.
Right.
Went up to him, introduced myself, and literally, I kid you not, Bonnie, we talked for about 35 minutes. And to loop it back around to what you just said, all he wanted to do was have a quote unquote regular, normal conversation.
Yes.
About our kids, about the
Right.
Eagles, the sports. And I walked away going, wow, they don't get to do that. Like, I didn't want anything. I wasn't pitching him a project.
No.
Nothing. And it was a little sad, but I can totally relate on a much smaller scale to what you went through with Olympia. What did you have for dinner? Not like, don't tell me about your flying here. No.
Yeah.
Did you burn the pot roast? Okay.
Right. I mean, one of our most fun things to do would be to hang out in her. We usually got adjoining rooms, and we would order room service, like a lot of it, and then watch a movie. She taught me so much about watching a film. Watching a movie with her was kind of like taking a master's level class in film.
I love that.
And I carry that with me. I'm really sensitive to lighting and cutting and editing and the costumes. And she was an actress who was so respectful to the lighting people, the costume people, the hair and makeup people, because those folks were responsible. She would like to do it in 1 or 2 takes. And if they're doing their job, then they're watching out for her. They've got her back. Yeah. It was interesting, really interesting that I learned. You asked me the lessons, respect everyone. Not that I didn't know that already, but I watched her, care, give a damn.
It's the golden rule. How you want to be treated. It's really here's that word again, simple, right?
Yeah, but I guess at some point, some folks lose touch.
We don't have enough time. We'll save that for part
2. Okay.
Listen, Bonnie, you're an absolute treat. I can't thank you enough for your time.
You're welcome.
I'm so glad we met. Thank you again.
Well, thanks for having me. And I truly hope that your listeners, your viewers have learned something. I'm that whole age 46 thing. I am determined to do something about that. So if you're okay with it, I just briefly tell you that what I'm doing about it is I now want to spend time with college kids.
Well, you and I have talked off air about this. We're going to do something together.
I hope so. I'm speaking in Las Vegas, and they're having 1,300 college kids there who are studying business. I want to get to them. I don't want them to have to wait till 46 or 36 or 26. I want them to get this information when they're 18, 19, 20, 21.
I have a 21-year-old son who's a junior in college.
Well, he needs to read Staff Matters. And if anyone listening is with a university, knows a dean, has a college kid, we need to do better by these kids. Yep. We need to get them trained.
Could not agree more. Thank you again. Well, that wraps up another episode of the CMO Whisperer Show. I hope you shared this episode with your friends. And if you have not already, please subscribe to be kept up to date on all the latest episodes. And if you're so inclined, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you.